Seagal is, I hope, right? Steven Seagal is one of the most famous, infamous action-adventure martial artist actors from the 80s and 90s. Got to be pretty big in the 90s, and then, well, that was a long time ago, and he's sort of lost his mind over the span of those years. Maybe he never really had a mind to begin with, but he's gone a little bit crazy. I wanted Steven Seagal to be the main actor in this movie. I wanted Stephen Whiting, who is a really, really brilliant actor who's been in a lot of really fun projects but never really been the main star. The only ever thing Steve Whiting starred in was the Sega CD FMV motion video game called Wirehead. Look that one up. Hi, Cupcake. Hey, Dorkfather. Hey, Ringfather. Hello, Ringfather and Dork Fit Runner. You guys should switch names. That'd be wonderful. How's it going, Cupcake? So Steve Whiting stars in this video game for the Sega CD called Wirehead. I should play that on this stream. It is wonderful. But after that game came out and I freaking got hooked on it, I want to say it was like the year 2000 or 99, well after the Sega CD had died off and well after that game came out, but I got hooked on it. It's like the same style as Space Ace or Dragon's Lair, that real-time event FMV type game, but it is so funny. It is all live action. It is crazy. It is so funny. I fell in love with that guy. Followed him forever. Any kind of commercials that he's been in. I think he was in like some gum commercials for years ago. It's going good. Good. I'm well. I'm good. We're back on the stream again. It's been almost 2 weeks since I've streamed last. So yeah, it feels like good to be back. Kids are home. Craziness has been averted over the weekend. It's been good. So, anyway, so Steve Whiting, I got to become quite the big fan of him. So I want him to be in this movie as well. I also want Steven Seagal to be the main actor, and then everybody else after that is kind of just filler, whoever we can find to fill in roles. There's Steven Seagal, there's Steven Seagal's wife, and then there's Steve Whiting, who's the main, like, I shouldn't say main character, but the main maybe villain. All right, so last night I was talking to ChatGPT. Now, if you don't know what ChatGPT is, it is an AI-generated chat program that you can talk to. It will tell you how to do all sorts of things because it has the entire universe at its disposal, pretty much the entire internet, to be able to dig for things and find things and answer questions for you. So you can ask it anything. You can ask it geographical questions, math questions, development questions like, hey, can you develop a version of Pong, but it's got to be in C++, and then ChatGPT is like, here you go, and it just gives you a line of code, and you drag it, compile it, and boom, you've got Pong running in C++. Like, it's pretty fucking wild. So, matter of fact, it's so popular right now that you sometimes have to wait in a queue to talk to it. So anyway, last night I was chatting with ChatGPT, and I said, hey, can you write a screenplay? And ChatGPT said, well, I can write a screenplay for you, but you've got to give me some prompts. Like, I can help you with it, but I can't just write a screenplay. And I said, well, I have a synopsis. And it said, okay, send me the synopsis. So I gave it about a paragraph synopsis of the story of Ghosts and Clones 2. ChatGPT proceeded to write a 14-page screenplay for me. So now 14 pages is not a lot, first off. If you're writing dialogue, setting up scenes, whatever. But I will tell you this, that I read through this screenplay that it wrote for me, and there are some moments that are awesome. There's a lot that's confusing because it doesn't make a lot of sense. It is AI drawing up conclusions that were not necessarily given to it and trying to figure out exactly how humans work because a computer doesn't necessarily know how to do that. But all in all, it's a pretty good screenplay. And also, I had the screenplay that I started to write all those years ago. It was now about 12 years ago, honestly, because before I even started at Collaborative with you, Ring Fit Runner, it was before that, it was when I was working at Wausau Financial Systems up in Wausau area, was when I started to write it. I got to like page 16 or 17 on that actual screenplay. And so if you take the story that I wrote, or the synopsis of the entire story that I wrote, it's basically separated into 3 acts. I got about halfway through the first act when writing the screenplay. This I'm looking at it because I'm pointing at it. This screenplay that ChatGPT put together for me goes through all the different acts. Now, it does miss a lot of key points. Obviously, there's a lot of filler stuff in the middle that I need to add into it. But I can take this. I bet it is. I bet it is. I bet it is. If you are thinking of Ghosts and Clones 2, then I bet it is. But yeah, I think I sent that to a few people back in the day. That's right. But if you take what ChatGPT wrote for me, and then yeah, if you take what ChatGPT wrote for me and fill it in and kind of fix it and you know, I don't know, make it a little more human or make it make some more sense than it actually does, this isn't bad. So I was thinking I'd read this today, this 14-page screenplay, and then once I'm done reading that, then we can jump right into the gaming. We'll play a game tonight, I promise. So is anybody interested in hearing this? I'm going to get a water because I feel a tickle in the back of my throat, and if I don't get a water, I'm going to start coughing. Nobody wants to hear me coughing, I'm sure. All right. So I'll be right back. Give me a minute. Un momento, por favor. Well, thank you for spending the points to save my life. Oh my God, you idiot. God. All right. Is everybody ready? Are y'all ready for this? Y'all ready for this? Do 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 do. Everybody else that's in the chat, thanks for hanging out. We will get to games in a little bit. Potato Malanet. All right. It's Oz, Drap Snat, Cupcake. Y'all here? Y'all are here. All right. So, Ghosts and Clones 2. I'm going to read it to you, and then afterwards we can discuss what's way, way, way off base with it and what maybe is pretty close to how I actually wanted it to be. So here we go. One. Scene 1. The credits roll as a montage of scientific experiments is shown. We see Dr. Whiting, played by J.K. Simmons. It added that on its own. And Stephen working together on various projects until an explosion rocks the lab. Marla, played by Emma Stone, receives a call from Dr. Whiting, who informs her of the accident at Doppeltech. He tells her that Stephen has died, but assures her that he'll take care of everything. That doesn't make sense. But anyway, let's continue. Marla visits Stephen in the hospital, played by Ryan Reynolds. She's shocked to see how different he looks, but Dr. Whiting explains that it's just because of the accident. We cut to Doppeltech during the day. Dr. Whiting is in the lab, working on his research. He's having trouble making progress without Stephen, so he decides to create a clone of him. Marla is now home with Stephen, but she can't shake the feeling that something isn't quite right. Stephen is dead and in the hospital. Dude, for real. Like, yeah, that he's like, he calls her and says, "Your husband's dead. Come to the hospital quick to visit him." Like, it's almost like she's in on it, but that's where the AI doesn't know, because all it is a synopsis. Okay, Marla's home with Stephen. She can't shake the feeling that something isn't quite right. Marla takes Stephen to the mall for a shopping trip. He's acting strange, talking to the toaster and plugging himself into a wall outlet to charge. But Marla is oblivious. Cut to Marla's home at night. Marla and Stephen are on a date night, but Marla can't help but feel like something is off. Suddenly the lights flicker and she sees the ghost of Stephen, played by David Harbour, trying to make contact with her. To Marla's bedroom at night. Marla is lying in bed, but she can't shake the feeling that she's being watched. Suddenly, the ghost of Stephen appears to her, and he convinces her that the Stephen she's with is actually a clone. The next day, Marla confronts Steven about being a clone. He's shocked and doesn't believe her at first, but she shows him the proof and he finally understands the truth. Cut to Doppeltech the next day. Marla, Ghost Steven, and Clone Steven team up to stop Dr. Whiting and his evil plan. They engage in a climactic battle against his clone army until they finally corner Dr. Whiting. Cut to Marla's home the next day. Marla and both Stevens are smiling as the credits roll. So this got really, really weird because it was cutting to stuff that doesn't happen until much later. Anyway, Act 2 now starts. When I was writing my screenplay, by the way, yeah, it's crazy. When I was writing my screenplay, I never even got through that part, what was just there, because there's tons of dialogue. She shows up at the laboratory and she's crying outside and the police are talking to her and they're talking about all sorts of stuff. And then, anyway, it's a big cover up. Anyway, so Act 2, this is how Act 2 should. So she's living with both Stevens like a boss. Yeah, she should. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so Act 2. Marla walks into her living room holding a bag of groceries. She sets it down on the kitchen counter and turns to Steven sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the TV while it's off. Hey, honey, I'm home. Hi, Marla. Marla walks over to the couch and sits next to Steven. I have a surprise for you. I thought we could go to the mall today. This is all AI, by the way. This is crazy. The mall? ? Asks Steven. Yeah, we can go shopping and have a date night, says Marla. Well, that sounds great, says Steven. Cut to the mall during the day. Marla and Steven are walking hand in hand, browsing through the stores. They stop at a jewelry store where Marla tries on a necklace. Steven is staring blankly at the jewelry, not paying any attention to Marla. Well, what do you think, Steven? Says Marla. It's nice, says Steven. Marla takes off the necklace and they continue to walk. Suddenly, Steven stops in front of a toaster display. Steven says, hello. Marla says, what? And then Steven says, hello, toaster. Marla looks at Steven with confusion. Are you talking to a toaster? Asks Marla. Yes, says Steven. Marla laughs. Marla says, come on, let's go. You're so funny. It's always about a toaster. Okay, cut to Marla's living room at night. Marla and Steven are all cuddled up. Fade out to a new scene. The next day, Marla's house. We see Marla entering her home carrying bags from her shopping trip. She goes inside, putting down the bags and taking a deep breath. Marla goes over to the couch and sits down, looking exhausted. Cut to the kitchen. Clone Steven is in the kitchen, attempting to communicate with the toaster. Clone Steven to the toaster. Hey there, toaster. How's it going? Marla enters the kitchen, confused. She says to Clone Steven, what are you doing, Steven? Clone Steven excitedly says, I'm talking to the toaster. It's amazing. It's like it's alive. Oh, Steven, you're so silly. Cut to the bathroom that day. Clone Steven enters the bathroom and begins plugging himself into the wall outlet to charge. Marla walks in, catching him in the act. Steven, what are you doing? I'm charging myself, just like a phone. Marla laughs about it, not realizing that this is not normal behavior for her husband. Later that night, Marla is getting ready for bed. Yeah, dude, it gets crazy. Marla is getting ready for bed. She then begins to feel a chill. She turns around and sees the ghost of Steven standing in front of her. Ghost Steven says, Marla, it's me. Marla is shocked, but somehow not scared. Marla whispering back, Steven, is that really you? Yes, Marla, I'm here. What happened? Where have you been? I was in an accident at Doppeltech, and Dr. Whiting, he created a clone of me. Marla is horrified, realizing that the Steven she's been living with is not the real Steven. Ghost Steven says urgently, Marla, you have to listen to me. You're in danger. Dr. Whiting is up to something evil, and you need to be careful. Marla nods with tears streaming down her face. Ghost Steven calmly says, I'll be with you, Marla, every step of the way. What's up, Pickle Friction? How's it going, buddy? Later that night, Marla's living room. Marla is sitting on the couch staring into space. Clone Steven walks in, looking confused. Marla, what's wrong? Steven, I need to talk to you, says Marla. Of course, Marla, what's on your mind? Marla, looking him straight in his eyes. Steven, I know you're not real. Fades to black. That's deep shit. That is some deep, deep shit. Then the beginning of the next scene, it repeats a lot of this stuff, but I'll just read it again. Yeah, we were in Madison over the weekend. I just finally posted those pictures. How's it going? How is it going? Very deep. All right. So let me pick up from where this is a ChatGPT screenplay of a synopsis that I sent to it to write a screenplay. So God's Fire and Pickle Friction, if you need to be caught up, now you're caught up. Clone Steven looks at Marla. What is it, my love? Marla says, after a long pause, I think you might be a clone. Clone Steven while laughing. A clone? That's absurd. I'm the real Steven. But I had a strange... I'm the real Steven. But I had a strange dream where the real Steven came to me and told me the truth. Marla, I know it's been tough since the accident at Doppeltech, but you need to let go of the grief. I'm here for you, the real me. Oh, dear Lord. Oh, dear. Marla, tears in her eyes. But what if you're not the real Steven? What if you're just a copy? Clone Steven then says. Puts his arm around Marla. Marla, look at me. I'm the real Steven. I love you, and I would never do anything to hurt you. Marla says, with a sigh, I hope you're telling the truth. Cut to Doppeltech. Whiting is working at his desk, surrounded by equipment and gadgets. He looks up as his assistant enters. Dr. Whiting, we've made a breakthrough with the cloning process. We created a whole army of clones with advanced abilities. Dr. Whiting excitedly says, excellent! We'll be able to take over the world and rule with an iron fist. The assistant then says, but there is one problem. The clones are unstable and unpredictable. They're starting to rebel against us. Dr. Whiting says, oh, I'll take care of it. I'll find a way to control them and make them obey. Now we cut to Marla's living room. Marla is sitting on the couch holding a photo of Steven. The ghost Steven appears before her, transparent and ethereal. Marla, I need your help. Dr. Whiting is up to something evil, and he's created an army of clones, and he's planning to take over the world. Steven, is it really you? Yes, it's me. I'm a ghost now, but I'm still here to protect you. I miss you so much. Well, I miss you too, Marla, but we need to stop Dr. Whiting. We need to work together to save the world. Cut to Clone Steven's bedroom during the day. Clone Steven is lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. The ghost Steven enters the room and approaches the clone. Please help me, Marla. You're my own Marla. Steven approaches Clone Steven. This is actually funny, too, because it says the names on the dialogue. It's Ghost Steven and Clone Steven. Ghost Steven says, Steven, we need to talk. Clone Steven sighs. What is it, Ghost? What is it, Ghost? Ghost Steven says, you're a clone, Steven. Dr. Whiting created you after the accident at Doppeltech. What? No, that's impossible. Hey, what's up, superstar? That's so true. Oh my God, Marla's the worst. Well, that's the point of it, though. I did make the point to say that Marla was super oblivious to everything. The Shrek adult story. Back at Doppeltech, Ghost Steven and Clone Steven are standing in front of Dr. Whiting's laboratory. They look determined, ready to face the challenge. What's ahead? It actually seems like it skips something here, because Clone Steven says, what? No, that's impossible, and then that's it. Anyway, okay, Ghost Steven to Clone Steven. We have to work together to stop Dr. Whiting. He's become dangerous, and we need to put a stop to his evil plans. Clone Steven, nodding in agreement. I understand. I don't want to be a part of this evil plan anymore. I just want to be free. Ghost Steven then says, smiling, that's the spirit. We'll work together to defeat him and put an end to his evil ways. They both nod in agreement and then turn to the door of the laboratory. They slowly open the door, peeking inside. They can see Dr. Whiting working at his desk, surrounded by his clone army. He's working at his desk, surrounded by his army. Ghost Steven then says, whispering, "We need to be careful. Dr. Whiting has an army of clones, and they'll do anything he asks." Is creating an army of clones with super white teeth. Clone Steven whispering, "Don't worry, I have an idea. We'll pretend to be on his side and then strike when he least expects it." Ghost Steven says, nodding, "Good idea. Let's do it." They both step into the laboratory, walking towards Dr. Whiting. Dr. Whiting looks up. "Ah, Steven, I'm so glad you're back. I have a new project for you to work on." Ghost Steven, smiling, "I'm ready to get back to work, Dr. Whiting." Dr. Whiting smiling back, "Good, you'll be leading my clone army in a new mission. We're going to take over the world." Clone Steven responds back, smiling, "Sounds like a great plan, Dr. Whiting. I'm ready to do my part." Hey, Buffalo Hopscotch, how's it going, buddy? We are reading a ChatGPT screenplay that it wrote for me after I gave it a prompt with a synopsis of a story that I gave it. We're almost done, by the way, because we're already on page like 13. Ghost, anyway, oh yeah. Clone Steven says, "Sounds like a great plan, Dr. Whiting. I'm ready to do my part." And Dr. Whiting says, "Good. I knew I could count on you, Steven." Ghost Steven and Clone Steven continue to play along, acting like they're on Dr. Whiting's side. But deep down, they're planning their next move, waiting for the right moment to strike. Double Tech Labs Day 2. Ghost Steven and Clone Steven storm into the lab, weapons at the ready. They quickly assess the situation, taking in the sight of dozens of clone soldiers standing at attention. Ghost Steven to Clone Steven, "This is it. We have to take down Dr. Whiting and his army of clones." Clone Steven, "Agreed. We're in this together." The two men nod at each other and begin to make their way deeper into the lab. Cut to Doppeltech Lab, the heart of the operations. Daytime. Ghost Steven and Clone Steven burst into the room, guns ablazing. They are quick. Where the fuck did they get guns? And one of them is a ghost. Remember that. One is a ghost holding a gun now, apparently. They're gun. Ghost Steven and Clone Steven burst into the room, guns ablazing. They are quickly surrounded by a clone army, but they are not deterred. Ghost Steven looking at, Ghost Steven to Clone Steven, "We've got to take down Dr. Whiting." Clone Steven, "Right behind you." The two men battle their way through the army, taking down clone after clone. Finally, they reach Dr. Whiting, who is cowering behind a large computer console. Dr. Whiting, cringing, "Please don't hurt me." Ghost Steven steps forward. "You have a lot of explaining to do." Dr. Whiting, stammering, I'm sorry. I just wanted to continue my research. I couldn't make any progress without you, Steven." Clone Steven, folding his arms, says, "So you made a clone of me? That's pretty messed up." Dr. Whiting, being defensive, says, "But I had no choice." Ghost Steven says, "You did have a choice, and you made the wrong one." The two Stevens grab Dr. Whiting and turn him over to the authorities. Cut to Marla's home the next day. Marla joyful. "Steven!" Ghost Steven smiling. "Hello, Marla." Clone Steven, "Hi, Marla." Marla tearful, "I'm so glad you're both okay." The three of them embrace, happy to be reunited. Fade to black, the title cards says Ghosts and Clones. So it's trying to say here at the end of the credits. There's the credits then. I assume the three of them embrace, they're reunited, and then there's the credits. And then at the end, there's an after credits. It'll fade in to something that says Ghosts and Clones PI sequel. Ghost Steven and Clone Steven are working together as private investigators solving supernatural mysteries. They're in their office surrounded by evidence and case files. Ghost Steven says, "Looks like we've got another case." Clone Steven replies with, "Let's do this." The two men stand up ready to tackle their next case. Fade to black, to be continued. That's Ghosts and Clones 2. Mazed. Yeah, oh yeah, there's a cliffhanger. Of course there's a cliffhanger. This thing is crazy. Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. What do you mean overloaded? My encoding's overloaded? What you talking about? Oh, they call in Dick Kitty PI. Yeah, that's Chat GPT's screenplay of Ghosts and Clones 2. So what did you guys think? Pretty wild, pretty crazy?